I'm making banana bread, but it's gluten-free, diabetically friendly, and it does not contain nuts. So I have made already gluten-free but with sugar and nuts, gluten-free and diabetically friendly with nuts, and now this one is going to be without any of it, so that all three dietary needs for you guys are all met. But I decided to make just one video, so it's going to be for all of them. The first thing that I need is 1 1/4 cup of gluten-free plain white flour. So here's 1/4 cup, and I'll put 5 of those in a bowl. 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The gluten-free flour does, of course, have a slightly different texture, and the bread will also have a slightly heavier texture. Then I need 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, except I'm not using liquid extract, because liquid extracts either have sugar or alcohol. The sticky syrups have sugar in, and the other, rather liquidy one, has alcohol in. So I am using powder, and I ordinarily use a far more expensive Madagascar vanilla, but I had run out, so now I have bourbon at the moment. Bourbon brand, like bourbon creams, but it doesn't have bourbon in it. So let's see. It's 100% dried vanilla bean, Vanilla planifolio, and I had gotten it from Bowtree. It is much cheaper, but that is because it tastes all right, but it's not the best. The best, in the same amount, costs me 3 times as much, but it's well worth it. Right, 1 1/2 teaspoons. No, just 1 teaspoon. So 1, 2 half teaspoons. And before anyone gets their knickers in a twist, the fact that bourbon vanilla is not the best vanilla does not in any way reflect poorly on Bowtree. Not their fault. That just happens to be the one that they sell. And I think it's more difficult to find the Madagascar vanilla powder because it's the more expensive, it's entirely different. That's why. So one might as well criticize a website that sells gold tone jewelry for not providing gold. You know, it has nothing to do with the vendor. I just prefer Madagascar vanilla because it has a richer flavor. Now I want a teaspoon of gluten-free baking powder. So I'm going to use 2 of the half teaspoons. No, I don't know why, I'm just doing it. And a 1/4 teaspoon of xanthan gum. Get those all whisked in together. The good thing about using vanilla powder is it's almost black in colour. You want all of these ingredients to be well mixed in, and when you can no longer see black powder, it's done, it's all mixed. Now then, let's set this aside and get the other ingredients done. Now, working with coconut sugar is quite different from working with sugars that melt, like brown sugar and granulated sugar. So it calls for 3/4 cup of brown sugar. So I'm going to use 3/4 cup of coconut sugar. 1, 2, 3. What would normally be done is you would put the room temperature butter in the bowl with the sugar and beat it with a mixer, stand or handheld, until it's all creamy. But coconut sugar does not work that way. So what I've found I've had to do what works. I'll show you in just a moment. Right now, I was using egg to make gluten-free croissants. I did get it to work, but I discovered that the gluten-free pie crusts, just roll, are full of water. So I had to take them out of the pan immediately to get them out of the water that had leaked out of the crust, which also means that freezing them is contraindicated because the water molecules would burst and it would not be pretty. So now the recipe calls for 162 grams of butter, is it? Let me see. Yes, 162 grams of butter. Don't know where that came from. It's just a table knife, I'll get it later. You probably know, you probably saw me put it up there. I just don't remember doing it. Anyway, turn this on and measure out 162 grams. Oh, Lisa, I have to remember to ask you when you want the stir fry. With it being in the video, I'll remember. Okay, 9 more grams. Try that. A little bit more. There, perfect. Okay. Now, what I have to do in order to make the coconut sugar work is old-fashioned pastry cutting. I have to squish it all in until it's crumbly. So I'll pause it here because I'm on my phone, so I can do that. I'll pause it here and then get back to you when it's done. Now I have it all mixed in until it's a thick batter. Now, of course, as one can imagine, the beaters will not make their way through that. So what I do is add one of the 2 eggs that the recipe calls for. And because the recipe that I'm using did not call for coconut sugar, but only gluten-free, I'm having to use my own tried and true methods for how to beat the coconut sugar. But I will leave a link to the gluten-free recipe anyway, only there. So let's get that mains turned on and bring it up. Oops, forgot to pause it for that. Okay, so now I've got both eggs beaten in one at a time, and that helps the coconut sugar to get beaten in. However, it will not be creamy the way brown sugar would make it, because coconut sugar basically stays a bit grainy. However, end result will be great, trust me. Now, the flour mix. This is where things get dusty in the kitchen. Making one of these loaves of bread is a guaranteed hour of cleaning flour dust off of everything. But you now mix in the flour mix half at a time. So I'll pause while I do that. Now, mixed in until almost combined. Then do this. Because you don't want to overbeat it, you do stop just short of having it all combined so that you can do it that way. Next step is the bananas, which are in the fridge. And I will put a link to John's banana bread recipe from Preppy Kitchen, because he will show you how to brown the bananas to coax them to release their sugars the same way a rather overripe banana would do, in case you don't have time to let the bananas, you want the peel wants to be black almost. They need to be quite ripe. So he shows you how, if you don't have time for them to ripen enough, to force that process by warming them in the oven slowly until the peel is black. Then they release their sugars and you can use them as well ripe. Now, in the gluten-free recipe, she instructs that we just mash them, but leave little chunkies in there. And the bread is gorgeous. So I took 3 to 4 ripe bananas, which, since I'm using the more sturdy sugar, I used 4 bananas. And then you want to fold them in gently. And the moisture from the bananas will help to get the flour all mixed in. With the other 2 recipes, I poured in walnuts, which her recipe does not call for, but she does say that you can add things, and you can. She recommends chocolate chips. Chocolate chips are not diabetically friendly, regardless of what the person making the video might claim. She did not, just so you're wondering, she did not claim that chocolate chips were diabetically friendly, but I have seen some videos on YouTube made by people who claim to be nutritionists or nurses and who make diabetic friendly recipes with chocolate chips. Chocolate is across the board a no-no. Lots of diabetes in my family, and the only one who died from it refused to stop eating chocolate. I also knew a woman, knew her personally, who had her legs amputated because she refused to stop eating chocolate. And the only way that such things happen is if you are not doing what you're supposed to do. So it's extremely rare that I will touch chocolate, and I only have a pre-diabetic condition that will lead to diabetes later, which is why I am extremely rare to have a bit of chocolate. Once I got diabetes, I would never have it again. But we grew up with the rules. It's like a way of life. And it's about just doing what you are supposed to do, and then you'll be fine. And one of the things you're not supposed to do is eat chocolate. Banana, it's not the peel, but you know those strands that are inside the peel? That's what it was. Okay, now, as you can see, it's all mixed up together, and you can see nice little chunks of banana in. Then you take a pan, and it's best to line the pan, even though this pan is non-stick and it's really good, it's quite good, it's best to still use a lining. And I use, because spray and my asthma do not mix well, I use a spritzer of local rapeseed oil. And I just spray the bottom of the paper, and then take my clean hands. I tried a kitchen roll, but it just absorbs it because it's such a light oil. So I take my clean hands. All of you know me, I'm the queen of clean hands. And I rub that oil into all of the crinkles, up to all of the edges of the paper. Now the thing about the paper is, and this is why it's best to use it even if your pans are non-stick, when you try to take it out of the pan, the paper will allow you to do that quite easily. It's just like when I make tiffins. Line the pan with a paper and it's all good. Now, I take a spoon and spoon the dough into the pan. Now I've been having the oven heat up to 180°C. I think that's 350 F. kind of getting these numbers memorized, but it would be a good idea. Oh, she put it in the recipe. She put both in the recipe. Clever girl. Yes, 350. It's 180 Celsius and 350 Fahrenheit. I'm still saying centigrade. That was dragons years ago. We used to say that. It's Celsius. Now, the thing about this bread, gluten-free, sugar-free, is that it is heavy. The loaf will weigh about the same as a good brick, but it is not hard. It is not hard. And it's not too sweet. It's absolutely lovely to eat. So don't worry about how heavy you'll feel it being. I'm just forewarning you that it will be heavy, but it's okay. Okay? Okay, that's it. And then pop that in the oven, and when it's done, you have to bake it for an hour. When the hour is up, then I'll pop it out and show you. And I said hour so that everyone would understand, because I say hour and some people might not understand what that meant. So I said it both ways so that everybody knows it means 60 minutes. And I'll show you when it comes out. Okay, I have taken the loaf out of the oven just now. So this is where the paper comes in handy, because you can use the edges of the paper to lift the loaf out. I've put kitchen roll on because I have noticed that gluten-free is quite watery. So it's fine. I tasted the last couple of loaves after they'd cooled, and they're quite nice. It's just that when it's newly out of the pan, I can't show you, there's just a bit of oil in the bottom of the pan from the natural bubbling watery. I say watery, but it's not quite that. It's just the same as the gluten-free just rolled pie crust puff pastry. When I took the croissants out of the oven, it just had a bit on the grease-proof baking paper. It just had a bit of clear liquid. And when I left the pan there, the liquid kind of hardened a little bit, almost looked not quite like oil or something, but I just think it must be some kind of residue of the gluten-free process. But whatever it is, it's quite nice. So there it is, all done, lovely loaf, and it is a bit hefty in terms of weight, but it is gorgeous. It really is a very lovely loaf of banana bread. And there it is, gluten-free, diabetic friendly, and nut free. Everyone can eat. So I hope you enjoyed it and that you might want to try it sometime.